December 2019. A private jet touches down on the snow-covered runway in Aspen, Colorado. Inside, Marcus Westwood, a man worth $847 million, sits alone in the plush leather cabin of the aircraft. His phone buzzes constantly. Another deal closed, another few million added to accounts he'll never be able to spend. The champagne glasses on the tray beside him glint in the soft cabin light, but even the luxury feels hollow. Outside, the crisp winter air swirls around the jet, sparkling against the mountains like tiny diamonds. Inside, Marcus feels a different kind of chill, a gnawing emptiness he can no longer ignore. He's won every game society told him to play, yet for the first time in decades, he wonders, what is all this for? 6 months later, the man who commanded boardrooms and controlled billions is living in a 200-square-foot cabin he built with his own hands. No electricity, no running water, no contact with the outside world. His bank accounts? Untouched. His empire? Given away. His name is Marcus Westwood, and this is the story of the wealthiest man who chose to have nothing. Stay until the end, because what he discovered in that wilderness will challenge everything you believe about happiness, purpose, and what truly matters in life. This is his confession. Marcus Westwood wasn't born into wealth. He grew up in rural Montana, the son of a high school teacher and a nurse. His childhood home was small, with one bathroom for 5 people, creaky wooden floors, and a kitchen that smelled faintly of wood smoke from the stove. Dinner conversations often centered around which bills to pay first, and on some nights the only warmth in the house came from shared laughter or whispered stories between siblings. But Marcus had something rare, an obsessive drive paired with brilliant timing. Even as a teenager, he stayed up late tinkering with old computers in his cramped bedroom, dreaming of creating something bigger than his small town. By the time he was accepted into Stanford University, he already had a vision for a future that most people couldn't imagine. In 1994, fresh out of Stanford with a computer science degree, he co-founded a software company that would eventually revolutionize data encryption. But success didn't come easy. Investors laughed at his early pitches, and he spent long nights coding in a tiny dorm room, fueled by nothing but instant noodles and determination. By 28, he was a millionaire. By 35, his company went public, and he personally netted $340 million. Most people would have stopped there. Marcus didn't. He accelerated. He launched 3 more companies over the next decade. A fintech startup sold to Goldman Sachs for $180 million, a biotech venture developing breakthrough diagnostic tools, and a real estate portfolio spanning 14 cities. By 2018, at 52 years old, Marcus had accumulated a personal fortune estimated at $847 million. On the outside, his life looked like a masterclass in achievement. Penthouse in Manhattan, estate in the Hamptons, collection of vintage cars worth more than most people's homes, 6 corporate board seats, 3 assistants managing his calendar, private jets and first-class flights 200 days a year. To the world, he had it all. But here's what nobody saw. Marcus couldn't remember the last time he'd slept past 5 a.m. without anxiety jerking him awake. He'd been married twice, divorced twice, and his relationships collapsed under the weight of his ambition. His 2 daughters, now in their 20s, communicated with him primarily through his assistant's email. He later described his life during this period with brutal honesty. "I had won every game society told me to play, and I was completely, devastatingly empty." The breaking point came during that December 2019 trip to Aspen. Marcus had flown in for what should have been a celebration. His latest venture had just secured Series C funding at a $2 billion valuation. At the victory dinner, surrounded by investors and executives, he felt the familiar hollow pulse of success. He excused himself to the bathroom. Standing there, staring at his reflection in the gilded mirror, the warmth of the chandelier contrasting with the chill of his thoughts, something fundamental shifted. He saw a stranger, a man who had spent 30 years sprinting toward a finish line that kept moving, a man who could buy anything except a single moment of genuine peace. For hours that night, Marcus sat by the window of his hotel suite, snowflakes drifting past, the silence of the mountains pressing in. He thought of his childhood, the dreams that had driven him, the moments he had missed with his daughters, the city lights, the deals, the wealth. They all felt distant, meaningless. By dawn, he had made a decision that would baffle everyone who knew him. Marcus Westwood, the billionaire, would walk away from it all. Marcus didn't announce his plan to the world. That wasn't his style. What he did was methodical, calculated. The same precision that built his fortune now applied to dismantling it. First, he met with his lawyers and accountants. The instructions were clear. Liquidate everything. The Manhattan penthouse sold in 3 weeks. The Hamptons estate, the cars, the art collection, all went to auction. Every transaction was meticulous, leaving nothing to chance. The money, nearly $750 million, was systematically distributed. His daughters each received $50 million in trust funds with financial advisors to help them steward it wisely. Another $200 million went to establishing educational foundations in underserved communities. Environmental conservation groups, medical research facilities, scholarships for first-generation college students. Marcus gave it away with the same intensity he had once used to acquire it. He kept exactly $2 million, enough, he calculated, to never be a burden on anyone, but not enough to recreate the life he was fleeing. Friends and colleagues thought he was having a breakdown. Intervention attempts were staged. His business partner flew to Montana to talk sense into him. His ex-wife called, genuinely concerned he'd developed early-onset dementia. But Marcus had never been more clear-headed. For the first time in decades, he felt like he was moving towards something rather than running from something. In March 2020, as the world began locking down for a pandemic, Marcus was moving in the opposite direction, deeper into isolation by choice. He had purchased 40 acres of forested land in northern Idaho, so remote that the nearest neighbor was 11 miles away. The property had no structures, no utilities, no road access beyond an overgrown logging trail. It was perfect. Marcus bought basic tools, a small trailer of supplies, and books, lots of books on wilderness survival, primitive building techniques, and sustainable living. Then he drove to his land and began. The first week nearly broke him. This man who had commanded boardrooms and negotiated billion-dollar deals couldn't start a proper fire. His hands, soft from decades of desk work, blistered and bled from handling axes and shovels. The tent he'd erected collapsed in the first strong wind. He injured his back trying to clear fallen timber and spent 3 days barely able to move. Every small task, from chopping wood to purifying water, was a battle. At night, lying in a sleeping bag on the cold ground, he questioned everything. One call to his assistant could reverse all of this. He could be back in a climate-controlled hotel room within hours with luxury and ease. But something deeper kept him there. A voice he'd ignored for 30 years was now impossible to silence. Not yet. Keep going. One night, the cold was unbearable. Marcus considered calling his assistant. He mentally walked through what returning would look like. The penthouse, the cars, the endless meetings. And then he asked himself one terrifying question. If I go back, will I ever be brave enough to leave again? The silence of the forest answered him. He stayed. He began keeping a journal from the second week onward, scribbling reflections in the dim glow of his headlamp. Day 10. I never thought simple tasks could feel so monumental. Yet every failure teaches me more than any boardroom ever did. By the end of the first month, Marcus had learned to make a fire consistently, though it still required patience and sweat. The small victories, though painfully earned, began to feel profoundly satisfying, something he hadn't experienced in decades. Even the wildlife around him became teachers. Watching the habits of birds, tracking footprints in the snow, identifying edible plants, Marcus began to notice details he'd spent a lifetime overlooking. The man who once negotiated billions now marveled at a single frost-covered leaf. Every struggle, every scraped hand, every frozen night was reshaping him. He wasn't just surviving, he was waking up to life in a way he had never known. Marcus spent the first 6 months learning to survive, not metaphorically, literally learning to keep himself alive. He taught himself to identify edible plants, forage wild berries, and purify water from the creek running through his property. Each day was a test. Which plants were safe? how to build a trap for small game, how to prevent frostbite in sub-zero nights. He built a crude shelter that evolved slowly into a proper cabin. Every nail he hammered, every log he notched, was a lesson in patience he'd never learned in the business world, a skill that no amount of money could have bought. By 8 months, the cabin was complete. 200 square feet, one room, a wood stove for heat and cooking, shelves for supplies, and a sleeping platform. No electricity, no phone signal, no internet. His only connection to the outside world was a battery-powered radio, which he rarely turned on. Days became rhythmical. Wake with the sun, tend the fire, check the water supply, repair the cabin, chop wood, prepare food, garden, read, think, sleep when darkness fell. Every task, repetitive and painstaking, became meditation. The first winter nearly killed him. Temperatures dropped to 15 below zero, and his wood supply ran dangerously low. He lost 20 pounds from his already lean frame. There were moments of genuine fear. What if he got seriously injured? What if the cold became too much? Nights stretched long and silent, filled only with the sound of wind against the trees and the whisper of his own heartbeat. But he survived, and something remarkable happened. The anxiety that had haunted him for decades began to lift, not immediately, but gradually, like fog burning off a lake. The constant mental noise, the deals, the competition, the endless strategizing started to quiet. For the first time since childhood, Marcus experienced something he'd forgotten was possible. Presence, complete undivided attention to the moment he was actually in. Splitting firewood became meditation. Observing weather patterns became entertainment. Watching his garden slowly bloom in spring became a source of pride deeper than any business success had ever generated. He began keeping a journal. Each entry reflected the slow excavation of himself. April 15th, 2021. I realized today that I couldn't remember the last time I'd actually looked at something. Really looked, not glanced while thinking about something else. I spent an hour watching a bird build its nest. An hour. The old Marcus would have called this time wasted. The current Marcus wonders how many years I wasted not seeing. July 3rd, 2021. My daughters visited. First time in over a year. They barely recognized me. Beard, weathered skin, calloused hands. We talked for 6 hours. Really talked. Emma cried when she left, but she said something I'll never forget. I feel like I met my dad for the first time. Worth everything. October 22nd, 2021. Winter is coming again. I'm ready this time. But I'm also different. I don't miss what I left behind. Not the money, not the status, not any of it. How could I miss things that never actually made me happy? The cost of that life was myself. The reward of this life is myself returned. Marcus wasn't performing some spiritual quest or making a political statement. He was simply finally listening to what he actually needed versus what he'd been conditioned to want. He discovered that genuine satisfaction comes from competence in things that matter. Growing food, building shelter, maintaining warmth, creating safety. That community doesn't require crowds. His quarterly visits with his daughters became more meaningful than thousands of superficial professional relationships. Wealth, he realized, isn't measured in assets, but in time spent aligned with your values. Even small details became sources of awe. The crackle of a fire, the first bloom of wildflowers, the way sunlight slanted through trees at noon. Marcus understood, more deeply than ever, that life was happening in the small, quiet moments he had once ignored. 3 years into his off-grid existence, Marcus received an unexpected visitor. A journalist named Sarah Chen had tracked him down through property records and spent 2 grueling days hiking to reach his cabin. Muddy trails, dense forest, and steep inclines made the journey nearly as challenging as Marcus's own early weeks in isolation. She was investigating the story of where billionaires go and stumbled across his. Marcus almost turned her away. Strangers rarely came uninvited to his sanctuary, and his hard-earned solitude was precious. But something about Sarah's genuine curiosity, her lack of sensationalism, made him agree to talk. Their conversation stretched over 2 full days. She asked about the money, the lifestyle, the transformation, and Marcus answered honestly, with no need for dramatics or moralizing. The resulting article went viral, reaching millions around the world. People were fascinated, not just by the fortune he abandoned, but by the profound clarity with which he spoke about life, purpose, and fulfillment. He explained his philosophy with crystalline honesty. People ask if I regret giving up the money. They're asking the wrong question. The money was never mine to keep. I was just its temporary custodian, and it was costing me my life to maintain that custody. What I regret is how long it took me to understand that the most expensive things in life aren't things at all. He continued, society sells us a script: accumulate, achieve, acquire, advance. We follow it religiously, rarely stopping to ask if it's actually making us happy. I had every material thing I could want and felt spiritually bankrupt. Now I have almost nothing material and feel genuinely wealthy. That's not poetry, that's just truth. The article sparked heated debate online. Some called Marcus irresponsible, claiming he was romanticizing poverty. Others accused him of privilege. Only the wealthy can afford to cosplay simplicity. Marcus responded with characteristic directness. I'm not telling anyone to do what I did. Your path is yours. But I am suggesting that we've collectively lost the ability to distinguish between actual needs and manufactured wants, between accomplishment and fulfillment, between success and significance. What many missed in focusing on the money was the deeper transformation. Marcus hadn't just changed his circumstances. He had fundamentally rewired his relationship with purpose. In business, I was always chasing the next thing, he explained. Close one deal, immediately pursue a bigger one. Hit one milestone, immediately set another. It was an addiction to achievement that could never be satisfied because satisfaction was never the point. The chase was the point. Out here, I learned completion. Chop enough wood for winter and you're done. Winter doesn't care if you could have chopped more. Grow enough food, store enough water, maintain your shelter. These have endings. You can actually finish. And in that finishing, you experience something our modern world has engineered out of existence: enough. His daughters became his most frequent visitors. The man who had missed their childhoods became present for their adulthoods. He couldn't give them carpool rides or dance recitals now, but he could give them undivided attention, hard-earned wisdom, and the example of someone who had the courage to rebuild his life from scratch. Emma, his youngest, later wrote about those visits. My dad used to be successful. Now he's happy. It took me a while to understand those aren't the same thing. Marcus also shared small, intimate moments from their visits. Long hikes through the forest, teaching his daughters to chop wood, reading together by the cabin fire. He recounted nights where they sat silently watching the northern lights, or mornings where they foraged wild berries and laughed over tiny mistakes. These details helped illustrate not just his philosophy, but the tangible ways he had rebuilt connections and redefined success. By the end of her visit, Sarah realized that Marcus wasn't an eccentric billionaire gone rogue. He was a man who had confronted the emptiness that wealth couldn't fill, and had emerged wiser, calmer, and deeply present. Today, Marcus Westwood is 57 years old. He's been off-grid for nearly 5 years. His life remains radically simple by conventional standards. He still lives in that 200-square-foot cabin, though he's made improvements. Better insulation, a more efficient stove, a small solar panel for a lamp and his radio. His possessions fit in a single backpack. His wealth is measured in jars of preserved food, cords of firewood, and the strength of his shelter. But his impact extends far beyond his 40 acres. The foundations he established continue operating, having already provided scholarships to over 2,000 students and protected 50,000 acres of wilderness. His daughters, using their inheritances wisely, have launched their own initiatives supporting mental health, sustainable agriculture, and education for underprivileged communities. His story, this choice to value presence over power, sufficiency over surplus, continues resonating with people wrestling with their own definitions of success. Online forums, podcasts, and social media communities now discuss the Marcus effect, sharing how his journey inspires people to reconsider their priorities, to question the scripts society hands them, and to rediscover what truly matters. Marcus doesn't preach or promote his lifestyle. He turned down book deals and speaking opportunities. He's not building a brand around simplicity or trying to monetize his transformation. In fact, he finds the irony darkly amusing. People want to buy courses on how to need less. That's the whole problem right there. Yet he does offer this reflection for anyone willing to listen. I'm not special. I'm not enlightened. I'm just a man who spent 30 years climbing a ladder only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. The courage wasn't in jumping off. It was in admitting I'd made a mistake and being willing to start over. Here's what I know now that I wish I'd understood at 25. You can spend your life accumulating, or you can spend it living. Those are different things. Accumulation never ends. There's always more to acquire, achieve, accomplish. But living has a rhythm: effort and rest, growth and contentment, building and being. The off-grid part isn't the point. I'm not suggesting everyone abandon their lives and move to the woods. But maybe, just maybe, we've outsourced our sense of enough to a system designed to ensure we never feel we have enough. What would your life look like if you defined success by your own terms rather than accepting someone else's definition? What would you do if you weren't afraid of being judged for wanting less rather than more? Who would you be if you stopped performing and started living? Marcus often reflects on the lessons his years in isolation have taught him. Courage is choosing authenticity over approval. It took leaving everything behind to discover what he truly valued. Happiness is found in presence, not possessions. True satisfaction comes from being fully in the moment, whether tending a garden or chopping firewood. Time is the ultimate wealth. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy time spent meaningfully with loved ones or time to grow into yourself. Enough is a choice. Modern life encourages endless striving, but he learned that defining what is truly sufficient brings freedom and peace. Connection matters more than accumulation. Relationships, presence, and impact leave legacies far more enduring than any bank account. On quiet evenings, Marcus sits outside his cabin and watches the stars, the same stars he once glimpsed between skyscrapers but never really saw. He reflects on the man he used to be and feels compassion for him. That man was doing his best with the tools and understanding he had, but he doesn't miss him. He smiles quietly to himself as he listens to the wind in the trees, the crackle of the fire, the distant call of an owl. For the first time, he knows that living fully, however simply, is a richness that cannot be measured in dollars. And in that stillness, Marcus understands the ultimate truth he wishes to share. A life well lived isn't about having more. It's about being more, loving more, noticing more, and choosing what matters with courage, clarity, and intention. Imagine having everything you could ever want: money, power, recognition, but still feeling completely empty inside. That was Marcus Westwood's life. He had billions, penthouses, luxury cars, and influence, but none of it could buy him peace, presence, or meaning. This is Life-Changing Stories, where we uncover the powerful lessons hidden in real-life choices. Marcus's journey teaches us that happiness doesn't come from what you own, but from being fully present in the life you have. True courage isn't just taking risks, it's admitting when your path is wrong and having the strength to start over. Success isn't measured by wealth, status, or possessions. It's measured by the meaning and impact of your actions. Enough can be more than more. Learning to be satisfied with what truly matters changes everything. Relationships and genuine human connection are priceless. Time spent with loved ones outweighs any financial gain. If Marcus's story moved you, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs this lesson, and comment below on which moral touched you most. Each story we share on Life-Changing Stories is designed to help you see life differently, challenge your assumptions, and inspire meaningful change in the way you live. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more true stories filled with emotional depth, life lessons, and inspiration you won't forget. Remember, the richest life isn't always the one with the most. It's the one where you live with purpose, presence, and courage to follow your own path. What would your life look like if you chose meaning over accumulation and connection over possessions? Take a moment to reflect. It might just change everything.